Yes, y'all. Straight wellness. On location right now. I'm here. We're gonna get ready. Let me see if I can while I'm doing all this, see if I can get all of my folks in. Let me try and invite folks over here. Yes, welcome to Straight Wellness, y'all. And it should be a good one tonight. I got Shirma P. Clark, who is going to be joining us. The subject will be, if you haven't seen it already, the subject will be black man versus his baby mama to be a part of his son's life. Black man versus his baby mama to be part of his son's life. All right, so here we go. Let's get it on. We're gonna have Shirma in here in a little bit. I'm just getting everything together. So in the meantime, if y'all are a black man and you have been fighting to be part of your son's life, this might be one for you. All right. So in the meantime, and in between time, hey mama, how you doing? All right. So we're waiting for Shirma Clark. I got possibly another guest. The black man himself might come on. Hey, no time. What's going on? So yeah, let me type in and say what today's topic is. And it's a sensitive one in my community. Um, hey, what's going on, Shama? Did you get the email with the link? Did you get the email with the link? All right, here we go. So let me do I go on email? Yeah, you go on the email or the phone, whichever you get the email, whichever one you got it. Either way, the phone right here. If you're talking about if you're on here, this is Instagram. The email is going to be the actual StreamYard. All right, so what's up, everybody? Sean Bouldin, Sean B. I got today's Straight Wellness, and the topic will be. I'm gonna type that in real quick. We're gonna have Shirma P here in a second. Hey, what's going on, Sky? You see the topic is, right? Black man versus baby mama to be part of his son's life. That's what we're talking about today. Give me a second, y'all, over here on all right. So give me a second over here while I get everything prepared. You will be able to hear me, but you won't be able to see me. And as I said, this is, what's going down? What's going on? Welcome, everybody. This is Straight Wellness, Sean Bouldin. I'm going to have licensed therapist and life coach, Miss Shirma P. Clark, joining us, and we are going to discuss a black man versus his baby mama to be part of his son's life. I'm going to get and read an email that we got from a guest who was having an issue that we're going to discuss. All right. So give us about 3 minutes. We're going to have Shirma join us, and we will be going from there. Jablu, what's up? Lo, what's up? Everybody here on Instagram, what's up? Facebook, what's up? All right. So y'all ready? Shirma P, you need me to resend that invite to you? Let me know. Ah, there you go. There you go. I see you.
Hey,
Good evening.
evening.
I can hear you. Can y'all hear over here on can y'all hear Shirma on Instagram? I think Mom, you're on Instagram. Can you hear Shirma P? Speak Shirma.
Good evening.
She says she can hear you. I can hear her talk, but she's not. All right, so here's what it is. How are you doing this tonight, Shirma?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
We
I'm
have
doing well.
beautiful weather here. I can't complain.
That's beautiful. You're in Georgia. I know how your people doing out in Florida.
My family's good. They didn't get hit. I have some friends though that were in Tampa and Orlando. I checked on them right before everything happened, so I need to follow up and see how they're doing.
Now, as you can see, the topic is black man versus baby mama. Oh, that's a baby man to be part of his son's life. Let me edit that real quick. Uh, that's funny, baby man. Okay. And the first comment that I'm going to read from my mother before we start is she said, I'm one of those black mothers who decided to give my sons to their dad, my sons to their father at age 14. It was the best decision I ever made for my black sons. Man, we need to pin that too. I want to pin that comment. Wow, Ma, that's a great comment. And I can contest. But before we get into it, Shama, I'm going to read an email that we got from one of our uh, uh, one of our members who wanted some advice. So I'm not sure if you got a chance to see it, but if you didn't, or if you did, I'm going to read it nonetheless. All right. Now I invited him to join us. I'm not sure if he's going to take the invite. Wait, he might be. He just popped on in. So hold on. Before we get there, would you like to be added to the stream, brother man? Brother man, can you hear me? Hold on one second, Sharma. I see him. He's in the queue over here.
How about now? I can't hear you, Shiz.
You know, all this time I'm muted
Oh,
over
I,
here,
I,
Sharma.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
No, I know because I was muted over here, but on Instagram.
And I'm muted. Yeah, I just
not
unmuted.
muted. So now I'm unmuted. Well, wow. This is even more powerful. I didn't expect my man to join us.
Yeah,
First and
in light of
foremost, thank you.
in light of
So
all right.
how do you want to be identified this evening?
Well, he's there. His name is there.
Okay,
Oh,
got
you want me to take it off? I should take it off?
No, that's up to you. Your comfort level.
Well, hold on, wait. I thought I was just observing. I didn't know
Well,
that I'm featured.
okay. Well, let me go on Instagram. Hold on.
Okay.
Observe. Woo! So
Well, now we're observing.
we done been inconspicuous now, but I'm going to
Right. That's why I was asking first.
right.
That probably should have been a conversation.
Hold on. I'm going to call him on my phone and find out what he wants because the gig is up, kind of.
Well, it depends on how many people are on right now. That may or may
Well,
not know.
it doesn't matter because we're going to be.
Push your set it off.
Yo, Sean, it's C. Can you hit me when you finish your live? Okay. No, I know. I was reading a comment. So, did you want to be on? That's what we're asking. Okay, well then, go to Instagram. Go to Instagram. And go to my live, and you'll be able to see everything. Let me see. Speak to me. Echo. I have an echo now. Hold on, let me mute my.
Maybe.
Read your text, Sean.
Okay, Shirma, we're gonna do it like this. My mother's going upstairs because that's what's echoing.
Okay,
my brother is speaking with me.
Tell
Can
your
you
mom
hear
she
me?
needs some AirPods.
She needs AirPods. I know, right?
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put you on speaker and mute so you can hear us, but we ain't gonna be able to see you. In case you want to comment, if you want to come in, you just stay right there where you are. If you ever want to actually show you, and we'll go from there. All right. You. Nah. No, I said, right now I'm gonna put you on speaker so you can listen in. All right. And if you want to join us, you just let us know that you want to join us. All right. Yeah, if you want Instagram, yeah, absolutely. Are you there? All right, cool. Well, I'll see you there. Let me get with Shirma and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to, chime in and comment on the
doing my live. All right, then. That was my brother.
If anyone wants to chime in on the
Instagram live.
Yeah, if anyone wants to chime in on the email that we receive or comment, they can let you know.
Yeah, what I'll do is everybody, I'm going to post. You can comment via FaceTime. Can you see the comments over there, Shirma?
Yes. Well, I see something scrolling at the bottom.
No, that's the scrolling to the right. I'm not sure. Let me see if
I'm not seeing comments.
Okay. Well, I would have to show the comment. Like this is one of our. I will have to show the comments. But if you need to comment on Facebook, go ahead and type it in, Chris. I will hit you after this. And if you want to comment over here on Instagram, the topic is what you're looking at pinned. It's a black man versus a baby mama to be part of his son's life. Okay. So you can hear me, you can see me. Video lady, what's going on? All right, let's get started. I'm going to read an email that I got from a black man. He's a bystander, but yeah, we will be able to let you take your camera off, bro. If you turn your camera off, right, but it still has no picture of you. I think you can definitely listen in from here. All right. You heard me, right? Okay. Technical difficulties are over. We're going to get this started. Let me get to reading what was shared with me via the perspective of the gentleman, one of the gentlemen who we spoke to. It says, a father is having issues with reconciling his relationship with his 15-year-old son. Father slash mother were never married, and currently the son lives with his mother in unknown state. The mother and the father split when the child was 3. Later, both married other people. At one point, when all lived in the state, the father had his son more than the mother until the age of about 6, uh, where the court had ordered time sharing, where a time sharing plan be put in place. In 2014, the son, age 7, mother and son moved to another state. They went to a court and ordered sharing time governing the interstate visitation, father in one state, the mother in another, and the son in another state, and they did not oblige that. So the father moved to the state where the son was in 2016 to be closer to the son. Upon father arriving in that state, time sharing violations began. After 2 years, the mother moved back to the original state, and the father remained in the state that he had followed the son to. Once back in the original state, the sharing violations continued, and the sharing violations were accumulating in all contact between accumulating and all contact between the father and the son being severed in 2020. Uh, Two separate extensive periods of at least 1 year has passed. Several contacts of the father communication with the son, back and forth in court unsuccessfully, 20,000 in legal fees. Father moved back to the original state to try to be a presence in his son's life again. Recognizing the need to offset the distance he feels that is resulting from the alienation and malicious behavior, the father gets family counseling in the state that he moved to between him and his son about a year ago. However, with severing visitations, the communication therapy was not impactful, and the father feels conditioning inserted more distance in the relationship with him and his son. All along, his son has been exhibiting alarming traits of becoming a young man. Contact was reestablished and therapy resumed, and the father's realization his relocating back to the original state was imperative and pivotal for his son's development. So what he wound up doing uh, in his own peace of mind. So the father feels seeds have been sowed way further with the alienation and malicious behavior and have grown into the son's attempt to manipulate both sides by exploiting division. As the father struggles with his own feelings and disappointment, hurt, and rejection, he fights and urges to walk away. He fights, but he's urged to walk away from the situation altogether. That's the gist of what's going on. So, with that being said, did you hear all of that, Shirma?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't put in the states, and I'll read it again, sometime in the middle for people who join us afterwards. But
You
that
can
is the situation.
summarize it if you want, I guess.
So to summarize, basically, a father has been fighting to get his son for such a long period of time so that he's able to be a part of his son's life. There was a disconnect. The mother of the child moved away to another state. The father then was disconnected with his son. To reconnect with his son, he followed them to that state so that he can have a connection with his son. Through court battles and through circumstances, he wasn't able to get that visitation because he was challenged with the mother's in cooperation in order to have the visitation that was ordered by the courts upheld. So he wound up fighting, trying to go to court to fight this, but because of the original state where the orders had come from, they did not oblige him in the new state with the same orders. They said you had to go to the old court in order to have it. So the mother was basically in control of not having to oblige um, uh, the original order that came from the first state in the new state. So then by the time he got to the new state and all of this, it was growing a further wedge between the communication between the father and the son and becoming very disruptive. What wound up happening is now the mother decided to move back to the original state. And he was like, okay, now he done fought. So he stayed in the state where he moved to for some time. But as his son grew older, and his son is now in his teenage years, he felt that his presence in his son's life was critical. So he then uprooted again to go back to the state, the original state. And now he's in a place where he's, because of the whole disconnection, he's trying to rebuild the relationship and trust between him and his son that was forged because of the separation. Meanwhile, trying to secure his feelings and keep a level head because of so much time, energy, and love and effort that was invested to try and keep this relationship in the first place. Because now he's feeling like it's not just the mother, but it's the conditioning of the son that is not a lot, that is starting to push back on him, because now his son is playing, or seemingly is playing, both sides to the middle and both parents against each other to get his way. So that is it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are at. Now I'm going to start, Shirma, being a male, being a man.
I was going to ask you to start.
Yeah, and I'm going to speak on it from the standpoint of how I feel. First off, the efforts of a father, a black father, by the way, to be in his son's life is commendable from a man's standpoint. Not too many men that I know would have put in the effort that this man did in moving to another state, following his son twice, just to be part of his son's life, to invest legally in court to secure visitation that was being it wasn't being honored. The visitation orders that were given were not being honored. So with that being said, it really, and I'm going to ask him to join us again, because I want him, after we speak about it, to join us, and he won't be on camera unless he chooses to be. But I'm going to ask him to join us just in case we're not covering his side of the story. But from that standpoint, a man being really, never mind all that. The need for a father to be in his son's life to give balance is what I'm so passionate about, and why I fight and argue with a lot of women to this day about how they are raising, or how they are allowing their fathers to not be valued, to give balance in a family structure. And this is just a instance that this is directly being displayed, and it's really bothersome to me. So with that said, I'm biased, frankly. I'm for the man right now, because one, I don't like when women abuse the fact of the child and their privilege as being a mother against a father, especially when the father is displaying efforts to be part of their son's life, not even the daughter, because I have a daughter and I did the same thing for my daughter. But a son is more critical. As my mother said at the top of this, she wrote a comment that she was one of the women who was able to give up her sons to their fathers when they needed it at the age of 14. And being a product of that decision, I know how important it is to have your father in your life, even if he was not part of your life up until your teenage years. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it there because I'm getting a little passionate. And I'm going to ask you, Shirma, what are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts specifically in regard to what's going on
Yes.
or your perspective? So one of the first things that I do want to address, um, these are always hard topics when it comes to kids and visitation, and I think I shared with you before that, um, I do family therapy, also, and it's always tough when parents don't get along or there's some estrangement and the kids are caught in the middle. But one thing that I do want to definitely address is is the stereotype first about black men and black men with their children. So I want to address that first. Because in the United States, there's that absent father thing that is given to a lot of black men, and that is a myth and it's a stereotype because data shows that there's a high percentage of African American males who are in two-parent homes or are consistently in their kids' life. And so that has been a myth that black men that they've had to battle for many, many years, that they are not consistent, parents, and they're not involved in their kids' lives. And the opposite is true. Yes, there are black men who are not, but there are also white men who are not involved. There are Hispanic men in other cultures who are not involved in their kids' lives. But data refutes that there's a higher percentage of black men who are not with their kids. So I just want to say that first.
Okay.
So just kind of listening to all of it. I mean, it's multi-layered. So the first thing that I always recommend is, family therapy, of course, between father and son. And per his email, this is something that he has incorporated again.
Mm-hmm.
His son being 15, first of all, teenage years is very confusing for kids as it is. They're confused. They're trying to figure out their identity. But at the same time, when you have a mother raising a son, um, the child is going to lean toward the parent, the custodial parent. They're going to lean more toward the parent who's in the household. They're going to build an alliance with the parent who's in the household. Um, and sometimes there's a lot of guilt there in regards to if I form a bond with this parent who's not been as consistently in my life as my mom, or if it's, a kid with their dad and they live with the dad, it would be the same scenario. If I form an alliance with a parent who's outside of the home, how does that impact my relationship with the parent who's in the home? And so it becomes rather confusing for the kid. Um, so I would say, no matter how frustrating it gets, stay the course. Stay the course in regards to fighting that fight and being in the child's life and continuing family therapy. Um, it takes time to build that trust, but as kids get older, they have more discernment in regards to seeing what is real and what's not real. I don't know if mom ever says anything negative, of course, because I've never talked to her, I'm not there. I don't know if comments have been made about dad or if the child may see some emotional distress from mom when it comes to dad. I don't know. But I know that a lot of times kids are going to be protective of the relationship of the parent that they live with. And so I feel like in time, trust can be built, and eventually as kids get older, they see things for more of what they are rather than, through a child's eyes or through the other parent's eyes or opinion. Um,
Okay. I can understand that. Now, here's my challenge with it all. While this is the case, you have a father sitting here struggling to be part of the son's life. Now, the issue that I have is a lot of times mothers don't understand the necessity, especially when it comes to a son. of a father being in his life. One, a mother, nothing against women. You cannot make a man. You can install things into them as far as value. You can install a lot of things that they need to give them balance as a man. That's why a two-family home is usually very well suited for a child to grow in. But as a father, not even just for a son, a father's value to a child's life is often overlooked. And that's my biggest issue, especially here in the States. And it doesn't have to do with race or ethnicity. Ethnicity. But I'll get it. But the point that I'm making is that it really bothers me because it's becoming a cycle that's normalized that is designed from dysfunction. And that's what really concerns me more than anything, because here I am, a man who can empathize with this man because I want to flip out for him. And he has to not only contain the fight amicably to get to be able to be in his son's life, but he also has to go through the mental torment and the mental stress that happens when you are constantly rejected by the courts, by the mother, and now by the child, and have to continuously deal with this while you're investing your energy, your time, your effort, and no one ever concerns themselves about how depleted you can get through the energy that you are giving towards these battles. And no one takes into consideration if you flip out once, it's over for you, it's over for your son, and no one wins. So that is where my passion comes from and why I'm so biased in this circumstance, because it becomes a game of some women being spiteful. And I'm not accusing this woman of it, although it's a safe assumption. And that's me making an assumption. And I'm not sugarcoating it for the sake of anyone. But the point is, if a man who is showing effort, I've seen so many men. As a matter of fact, me and this gentleman are products of men whose fathers left their mothers at an early age, which shaped our personalities to have so much compassion with being in our child's lives, because we didn't want to be like our fathers. We didn't want to abandon our children ever. I'm that type of father that has been subjected to that. But what I learned as a man is that in getting to know my father is that my impression and thought of what I didn't want to be like, albeit there was some value to it, the man that he actually was and I learned him to be, I needed to know that as well to give me a lot of balance. And I feel this is where this father is coming from, trying to give his son those moral values and the principles of being a man and standing up as a man that no, ladies, no disrespect, no woman can give to another man or another young man. As much as they can tell them it, but they cannot display it because they are not a man. So with all that being said, that's why I'm so passionate about it and why I thought it was a great subject to discuss, because I feel like this disconnect and this battle for a woman specifically to be correct instead of being corrected falls into play in this whole situation.
And you are passionate, Sean Beast. So let me say this. So as a therapist, when I have situations where fathers are, let's say, absentee fathers, one of the things that I recommend and others recommend is that who are the male figures in the child's life? Because I do feel that it's important for young men, for boys and young men, to have male figures, whether it be their biological father or someone who is a father figure or a mentor. So, absolutely, because I have a friend who has an adopted son, and she surrounds him with positive male figures so that he has that father like energy and that he has male figures around him. So I agree with you that there has to be a balance with boys and young men, that they have their fathers in their lives. If, and I will say this, and this is no disrespect to anyone, because I don't know enough about the whole situation. I've never talked to the mom. If the male figure is a healthy male figure and it's a healthy relationship for the child, absolutely, um, that man should be a part of his child's life.
Okay. Now, this is where I challenge therapy.
Okay.
Who determines healthy?
Well, who determines healthy? There's a lot of things that determine healthy.
Okay.
I heard in the letter that the the respondent who sent the letter indicated that they were in family therapy. As a therapist, if I have a whole family in therapy, or if I have a mother daughter, a father son, a father daughter in therapy, there are clear indicators that I can see if interaction is healthy or not. Who determines healthy? I think it's really, you look at the impact on the child. My daughter is not raised the way I was raised. Um, I don't know if you raised your daughter the way you were raised. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I feel there was a lot of value in how my parents raised me. But there's also things that I feel don't necessarily fit my parenting style that may not be the best thing for my kid, because my kid is different than I was. And sometimes I see situations in families where the interaction of the parent may have a negative impact on the child. If it's having a negative impact emotionally on that child, then that's something to be discussed. You said who determines? There's a lot of things that determine. There could be emotional abuse, and I'm not saying there is. So let me just make that disclaimer. I am not saying there is. I'm referring to if the relationship or if that parent is healthy for the child. Um, I have to determine if there's emotional abuse. I have to determine if there's physical abuse. I have to determine if there's neglect. So all those things come into play. And if all those things are absent, then you work on the communication, the trust, and building that bond. If those things are present, then I have to look at, can those things be remediated? Where the parent goes to parenting classes, the parent goes to therapy, the parent goes to individual or family therapy, or goes to parenting classes and learns how to have a healthier interaction. So there's a lot of ways to determine those things, but I'm speaking
Mm-hmm.
as a therapist. As a friend, when I have friends that have these indicators, I try to, I think as women are quick to support other women. Men are quick to support other men. I think it's important,
Woo! Say that again.
but
I'm
I think
sorry.
women are quick to support other women. Men are quick to support other men. Sometimes people get irritated with me because I ask a lot of questions and I try to look at both sides of the coin and say, okay, well, maybe this is going on and this might make that person uncomfortable. Or maybe this is going on and maybe you all are allowing your own, anger toward each other to be shown, and it makes the child uncomfortable where they have to choose sides. Maybe, you know, maybe that other parent talks about their parent negatively and the child overhears it. the parent talks to the child, the parent talks around the child, not maybe necessarily to the child, and says negative things. There are a lot of factors in play of the things that can happen. And so I always feel like it's important to hear all sides, to find out if things are being done that are, deliberate and overt, or things are being done innocently that may impact the relationship between the child and their other parent, and vice versa.
Okay, and that's a fair answer, and I can understand that. The reason why I question it, or have questioned it, was because statistically, a lot of therapists that I have known use statistics, and generalizations is what statistics are to me, and not really take the time and energy that you just described to learn the specifics about the individual circumstance, and kind of start weighing a lot of their therapy on what they've learned from statistics as opposed to what they're learning from the facts. So, my saying is facts over feelings. And depending on who we're speaking to, there's sometimes you have to identify whether your person that you're speaking with is swayed one way or the other, which is the reason why I love speaking with you, because you speak from a neutral standpoint, which most therapists should, but they all don't.
And
And
ethically, Sean, we are supposed to. Ethically, we are supposed
you're
to
right.
take our own individual feelings out of it. And I think, you and I had a brief conversation about, this type of topic. And I told you, there were times I've had families come in and they're pointing the finger, and sometimes they're pointing the finger at the kid. And within 5 minutes, I see the responsibility that everybody has in turning the situation into whatever it is. I will say this. I don't know if, in the case of the person that sent in the email, I don't know if mom still harbors specific issues with the dad, or if mom has concerns. Something is going on with mom if she is not facilitating and nurturing a connection between her son and his biological father. Something is going on. I don't know what it is. It could be unresolved issues that she has to work through. It could be concerns that she has that have not been discussed. It could be concerns that the young man may have voiced that he's not telling his dad. I don't know. But in family therapy situations, I feel I have in the past pulled in both of the parents outside of the child. When I had a mother-daughter situation where I was trying to help them improve their relationship and heal from some past hurts, and they both hurt each other. If I see a situation where there is a parent who I feel is hindering the process, then I have 2 or 3 sessions with just the parents, and I have them talk about the issues. I'm a mediator. I make sure that they're communicating effectively, and they both get to talk about what their pain points are. But sometimes it's important to get the parents in the room so that I can get a good perspective of what's going on. What is going on with this parent that she's uncomfortable with allowing her son to see his dad? What is going on with the dad that he might have an issue? And I'm not saying this is the case with our person that sent the email in, but sometimes the dad doesn't like the mom very much. So having them work through their issue and really seeing that they need to partner and heal from their own individual issues so that they can be partners and, co-parent the child effectively. That's the bottom line. And sometimes I have to deal with the parent in order to get to that part, to address
Okay.
that, before you can move into that. And And if they are, and sometimes they're resistant. And so it becomes a really contentious and difficult situation. But what I will say is when parents hang in there, when dads hang in there, at some point, teenagers get to a point where they can see what's real and what's not, where they have some discernment in regards to, is mom telling the truth about dad? Is everything that I see real? And so I usually tell people, don't give up. Don't give up on the relationship. Keep getting support and, continue trying to build that bridge.
Okay, and that's great advice. And I'm again, everybody who's just joining us, this is Shirma P. Clark and Sean Bouldin, and we're talking straight wellness. Today's topic is a black man versus his mama being part of his son's life. We got a letter from a person. I'm going to read it again so that you are up to date in case you didn't hear it the first time. And I'm going to actually read it verbatim this time instead of roundabout, so that you can get a better idea of what's going on. And I'm hoping that you can understand. I'm very passionate because I feel like our family structure is being destroyed. And I do put a lot of blame in one instance or the other, depending on the circumstance. I try not to generalize, but what I have found and what I'm learning and is upsetting is that the root of it all is certain people, one or the other or both, not taking accountability for what they should be responsible for or the actions they should be responsible for. So with that being said, let me read the letter again that we got. This is our I don't want to call it the strawberry letter because that would be Steve Harvey's thing, but this is the wellness letter for Shirma P. Clark and Sean Bouldin. All right, here it is. A father is having issues with reconciling his relationship with his 15-year-old son. Father/mother were never married, and currently the son lives with his mother in Florida. Father/mother split with the child. Split with the child was 3. Oh, no. Father/mother, when the child was 3, split. Later, both married other people. At one point, when all lived in Florida, the father had his son more than the mother until the age of 6, where it was a court order of time sharing plan in place. In 2014, when the son was 7, the mother took the son and moved to Georgia with the court order time sharing plan governing the interstate visitation, meaning the father was in Florida and the son was in Georgia. So he still had to go by the court order visitation. So the father, because it was being, was difficult to do, the father moved to Georgia in 2016 to be closer to the son. Upon father arriving to Georgia, the time sharing violations began. After 2 years, the mother moved back to Miami, to Florida in 2018, with the father remaining in Georgia. Once back in Miami, the time sharing violations continued, accumulating in all contact between the father and the son being severed in 2020. The two separate extensive periods of at least 1 year has passed with severed contact of father's communication with his son. Back and forth in court unsuccessfully, $20,000 in legal filing fees later, the father moves back to Florida to reestablish the presence in his son's life. Recognizing the need to offset distance, he feels that is resulting from the alienation/malicious behavior. The father gets family counseling in Georgia with him and his son in 2019. However, with the severing of visitation, the communication therapy was not impactful, and the father feels conditioning inserted more distance in the relationship with the son. All along, son has been exhibiting alarming traits unbecoming of a young man. Contact was reestablished and therapy resumed with the father's realization his relocating back to Florida was imperative and pivotal for the son's development and his own peace. Now the father sees the soul by uh, by way of alienation, malicious behavior have grown into Son's attempt to manipulate both sides by exploiting division. As the father struggles with his own feelings of disappointment, hurt, and rejection, he fights, his fight urges him to walk away from the situation altogether. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that we got from a father. And with that being said, is what we're discussing right now. Now, Sharma P. Clark is a licensed therapist and life coach, and she's a great friend of mine. We've been friends for over 30 years at this point. And
You're
prior
telling
to,
on my age now, Sean.
well, nah, I didn't say we weren't friends from elementary school.
I'm just kidding.
But just to say, so we've been friends prior to her being a therapist, and we've always had conversations regarding life. And this had led into us having these conversations live. And this happens to be the subject that we're speaking about.
So,
Now,
Sean,
my mother, go ahead.
good. I was going to say, I have, so when you reread the letter, there's some points that I would like to make.
Go ahead.
So, first of all, um, parents are mirrors. The relationships that parents have with each other, whether they are married, living together, or co-parenting. We are, and I say we because I'm a parent, we are mirrors to our children in regards to showing them how to have healthy or unhealthy relationships. We are mirrors. When we have healthy relationships, we're showing them how to have healthy relationships. When we have unhealthy relationships, we're showing them how to have unhealthy relationships. So the first thing I'm going to say is that it's imperative that people deal with their personal issues when it comes to that other parent, whether they are married or whether they are living separately. It is imperative that people deal with and heal from whatever hurt, disappointment, anger, or issues that they have with their husband or wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, exes, period. Because we mirror how to have relationships. And when children see estranged parents, when parents are estranged, what happens to kids is that they, you know, if they're not able to have a relationship with that other parent, they grow up with abandonment issues. They grow up with distrust. They grow up having difficulty bonding with same sex friends or bonding with people. And basically, we're teaching them to have unhealthy relationships. And so that's why we talk about pathology and things that we pass down to our children. The things that we pass down to our children are not just DNA and hereditary. They are ways of living, ways of being, ways of communicating, ways of connecting or being disconnected. And so it's important that we as human beings learn to put our own personal issues aside so that we show unity and co-parent in a healthy way so that our kids learn how to have healthy relationships because they carry this with them into their own personal relationships when they get older unless they recognize it and heal it because they don't know anything other than that.
Agreed, agreed. And that's part of why we're having the discussion because I agree with that wholeheartedly. And that unhealthiness is really, I'm a stickler for getting to the root of an issue to start a resolution for it. And in this case, I would love to as well speak with and hear the mother's side because I too think and believe that the mother has some type of, as you said earlier, resistance. And I would love to explore where that came from. And the reason why I have such a passion, and why I'm leaning towards, is not because it's another man. It's because I know a lot of men who do not put efforts into being a dad or being a father, including my own at one point. So to see someone putting in the effort that is necessary to establish a relationship and to add substance into their child's life and getting resistance in any form of fashion, whether it be by the mother, the courts, the child, or a combination of all of those, is very concerning for me. So it's not about beating up a mom. It's not about siding with a dad. It's about coming to a conclusion of where the issue is rooted. And more importantly, what can be done for the child's sake, because I am a product of dysfunction in relationships. And because of that, I sometimes struggle in relationships. And because of that, and I address it often, I now am looking for the ability to learn and understand both sides so that I can lend balance. And this is why these conversations are so valuable to me, not just as a father, but as a man who I want to share how valuable and commend how valuable a man fighting. I have a comment over here by Jay Ward, says stepdads are heroes. You know what's interesting about stepdads? I am a stepdad, but I just saw something more recently that summarizes it. I'm not just a stepdad, I'm the dad that stepped up. And that in itself, I'm not a stepfather, I'm the father that stepped up. And that in itself, when you got your, never mind the step, but you got the biological father trying to step up, that's unheard of in a lot of cases. And the reason why I'm very passionate about this man's letter and wanting to find out why and what he has done to this woman that has her so resistant to embracing the love that he wants to extend to his child. So one day, hopefully, we'll be able to get that. But
And
as of right
sometimes
now,
it's important for, I mean, I don't know if she would be willing to come into the family session or be willing to sit down and have a session with him and the family therapist. But sometimes it is important, as you said, John B., to get to the root of it. I will tell you when I don't recommend that people get together. I don't recommend that if it, like I have a family right now um, where there's issues with visitation. Um, the kid does not want to visit the parent. It's not the same situation. Well, you know, little similarity, but what I can tell you is what I do know in regards to the mother is there was abuse. There was physical and, you know, mental, emotional and physical abuse in the previous marriage. And so the biological dad is trying to have visitation with the child, and the child doesn't want to. She's a teenager also, and she doesn't want to do it. I won't get the mom and dad together because if there's abuse there, I stand clear of that. But although I know that there's a history of abuse, I still feel because the man didn't abuse the child, the man abused the mom. And so I still feel it's important for the child and the dad to go through family therapy and learn to have a healthy relationship. Because what went on
and
between mom and dad has nothing to do, as long as the man is healthy for the kid. And I know that the man has not abused that child in any way, shape, or form. And the court has determined that he's never abused the child in any way, shape, or form. So that being said, I felt that the family had to put aside what went on between the mom and the dad and allow the dad and his daughter to go through therapy and form a healthy relationship with each other, aside from whatever happened between the parents, because that
Wow.
has nothing to do with the kid. And it's
Wow.
hard sometimes because it's hard, but if the dad is safe for that child, what the parents went through has nothing to do with the kid. And that's the issue. A lot of times parents involve the kids, or they can't get past their own issue with their ex in order to allow them to foster a healthy relationship with their
Wow.
child.
I think what you just said is so important. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all heard what she just said, and I'm going to reiterate it in my own way. Regardless of what you and your ex went through, even when it has been physical abuse, unfortunately, and I don't condone physical abuse whatsoever, you have to set that aside if that abuse is not taking place to the child. You have to set it aside and allow the relationship between the child and that parent to develop despite what happened and your memories of what went down between you and that person. And it isn't always, it is primarily man physically abusing a woman. But brothers and sisters, I'm letting you know it doesn't only happen with man versus a woman. There are some times where the woman has abused the man physically. The difference is the man usually doesn't take it as physical abuse. And so they're able to just kind of continue and allow that relationship to develop naturally, unlike where it's the other way around. But the point that she just made is so critical that despite if that other parent or is not being abusive to the child, in order to keep a balanced relationship for the child, you might want to consider setting your personal feelings and issues aside for that child. And that takes a lot of, this is going to be the key word, emotional maturity. And unfortunately, we old as hell, old as dust, and don't always have emotional maturity.
Well, Sean, too, abuse creates trauma. And so it is difficult. So I, in no way, shape, or form, am saying that it would be easy for someone to foster the relationship if they have trauma from the relationship. But this is where healing, is necessary. This is where therapy is necessary. This is where your support system is necessary. This is where your buffers are necessary. And when I say buffers, one of the things that I had to make sure of is that the parents didn't see each other so that someone else can drop off the kid for family therapy. So when the dad came, the mom didn't have to see the dad, because that's an emotional trigger for her. She was abused by that man. And so, but this is where you have to have safety measures and you have to have buffers. This is why the courts sometimes have drop off locations where you're dropping off somewhere outside of the home. You don't know where that woman lives, and that way she's safe. But at the same time, sometimes aunts and uncles, step parents, other relatives or friends are involved in regards to doing the handoff. Sometimes the handoff is done, at a McDonald's, or, in a parking lot, or at someone else's house. But you put the safety measures in so that you make sure that you are not causing more trauma or distress to the parent that has been abused. But again, if that parent has never abused that child, there is no concern for the safety of that child, then the parent should have a relationship with their biological child or stepchild, or whatever the case may be.
Wow, wow, wow. And that I'm gonna leave it there. This is we've been in here for about an hour and 6 minutes. Technically, we had some technical difficulties, so we haven't really been speaking for an hour, but I've been live for over an hour, so we're gonna kind of wind it down. That was a
Um,
great point that you just made.
Thanks.
And
The
continue.
comment
Go
that
ahead.
you had from the lady who talked about she made a she said something about what was the comment that before we started that someone had?
Was it that stepdads was it about the stepdads, or was it I'm one of those black mothers who decided to give sons to
Yes,
their
that one.
dad. Okay.
Right.
I'm one of
Yeah.
those black mothers who decided to give my sons to their dad, my sons to their father at age 14. It was the best decision that I ever made for my black sons.
And there are a lot of parents who, when boys get to their teenage years, they end up living with their fathers. But I absolutely, as I said before, feel that there has to be a balance there. If their fathers are absentee fathers, then there should be other male figures who are positive mentors, or uncles or other male figures in that young man's life, in order to create that balance for them, so that
Well,
they learn from those men.
here's where I speak from a personal standpoint. As being a product of a son who went to their father, who was an absentee father. And what you just said is what happened while he was an absentee father. And it, traumatized and hurt my mother, in certain ways. She was able to put that aside and allow us to go to our father and establish a relationship. And what I found in my later years, and as being an adult and having conversations with my mother, and I didn't have a chance to have these conversations with my father as an adult, is I realized that my mother had an experience with a man who was immature. And the man that she sent me to, while albeit still might not have been as mature as he could be, was much more mature and more suitable of being a father. And it was displayed in one slight thing, and that was the fact that he took us. He did not have to take us. He did not have to take on the responsibility or agree to take on the responsibility to have us come live with him across the country. He could have denied that. And so him being able to embrace that showed his maturity level had increased from the time when he was an absentee. And it was valuable for my mother to be able to recognize that, whether she did it consciously or subconsciously, and be able to trust and allow that. Because she got a lot of ridicule and a lot of resistance and pushback from her friends, from other family members. Well, they don't even know their father, or how you gonna just send them out to that man, and they don't even really know him, was a lot of what she was having. But mind you, some of that resistance came from mothers who had daughters. And while that might apply in an instance, I don't really agree, but it might apply when it comes to a son and a father. Whether he know us or not, he knows us. We are of his DNA, and if he's taken the time to get to meet us or embrace us, he will learn not only more about us, but he's going to learn more about him through us, and that's a valuable thing that through my experience, I can relate to people and help them understand that it was a valuable and necessary blessing for me and my brother. So, with that being said, I thank you again for sharing your opinions, your
Sean,
professional opinions. Yes.
I am getting a text from my husband who said who wants to chime in. So so I'm wondering if you
Send them
know,
the link, because what I said is we were going to get off just to respect what we have now, but it's not a necessity that we get off. And I would love to hear his opinion. And you can send him the link, and he definitely can join us. We do also have the bystander there who's listening in, and if
yeah,
you wanted to chime in and say anything, feel free to unmute
feel
your mic
free.
and speak.
Right. And I will, let me see if I can send him the link. But I will say this, I have to reiterate this, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
I have to re-emphasize that you only send the child off if you know that this is a safe situation. So not just because it's a bio parent.
Well, wait. And I'll have
And
to
this
say
has
this.
nothing to
You
do
are a
with the
therapist.
letter. It has
You
nothing to
are
do
a
with the letter.
therapist.
So I
Right.
have to do
You
that
are a
disclaimer.
therapist. Yeah, you are a therapist. And you are speaking professionally. And I understand that. And I see my God said he's trying to hide it, but it's all good. You are a therapist and you have to speak from that standpoint. And I understand and agree with that. My point is that's why I asked you earlier who establishes it, because quite frankly, a lot of times we might not agree with people's methods, but as my father, for example, my biological father, he was able to see things in me that a therapist wasn't able to see. He was able to see things in me that my mother wasn't able to see because he saw him in me. And he was able to address it. And like I said, God willingly, he was adequate, safe, arguable, depending on what you call safe at 14, 15. And let me share with you what I mean by that. It wasn't abusive physically, he wasn't that. But giving us liberties because he still, was kind of like he was a single man, kind of living a single life, kind of, or being a man that still he might have not given us the attention. Some might call it neglect, but I didn't see it as neglect because I was already mature in a lot of different ways to where I had been, I didn't need the attention, the physical attention as much as the average child might. So that was circumstantial. I'm not saying that it applies with everyone, but what I'm saying is the reason why I say that is because had somebody known that he was leaving his 15-year-old, he didn't leave us unattended. But let's just say him and my stepmom went out because we live with my stepmom as well. Let's say they went out and we were there unattended for an amount of time. Some might call that neglectful and say, oh, he shouldn't have done that, and so on and so forth. All I'm saying is that we can't generalize when it becomes something specific, and those specifications become very valuable in determining that.
I mean,
So,
you're talking about a specific situation, right? I
right,
am talking about it in general
generally,
because I
right.
mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, if you're 15 in Georgia, you can leave a kid alone at 14 for a certain amount of hours. You just can't leave. They can't be left overnight. But I think it's like 2 hours when they reach a certain age. They could be alone for a couple hours or whatever. So I'm not referring to that because kids can babysit younger kids at a certain age. I'm referring to like safety issues,
Okay.
and abuse issues, and emotional safety. I'm not sure if he's coming on or okay. So he's saying he may not do it today. But I guess I said so. Just so you guys know, late for the folks that are watching, my husband and I, we have heated debates, not arguments. We have very passionate debates all the time. So I'm sure he wants to either challenge something I said or come on and support something I said. But we support and I think he gets a kick out of challenging things, though, that I said. But he has some experience with this as well, Sean B.
Right.
From his upbringing. I won't get into detail because that would be for him to
Right.
share. But this is a subject that he's familiar with, and I
Yeah.
guess has some opinions about. So we'll debate, I guess, if he doesn't look like he's coming on. So I guess we'll debate about it after I get off.
Well,
Of
and by all means, he's always invited up, and we can have as many as up to about 10 people at one time in this platform. That's why I shifted from Instagram and came over to YouTube and Facebook so that we're able to have these. Like I said, we have our bystander who's available if he needs to be, and we could have up to 6 or 7 more people if need be. If need be. So, I
yeah.
hear our bystander. So, sir,
You hear me?
did you
Oh,
want to say something? Yes, we can
yeah,
hear you.
yeah. I wanted to chime in really quick. I agree a lot with you. Both made some valid points. I
Oh,
agree
there he is. I'm
with
sorry. Keep going. My husband
uh,
just popped on.
I agree
But
with
go ahead.
Ms. Shirma, and I also agree with you uh, on the safety issues. I definitely agree with that. And so me, this being my personal case, there's no safety issues. Um, when my son is from underneath the sphere of influence, let's call it the sphere of influence, he's fine. Our relationship is fine. It's just um, getting my time decreased so that I can't counteract that sphere of influence. I think it's a I think it's a personal thing. I think sometimes his mom's hasn't let go. Sadly to say, I think it's still some things there that we need to resolve, and it's spilling over into um, my son's and I's relationship. It has spilled over because he's so impressionable. As Sherman said, she is a custodial parent and has been as of the last uh, 10 years, 9 years. So, as a custodial parent, her time is more influential. Her time is greater than mine. So, the only way to counteract that impression is and that conditioning is with time. So, criminals get sent to jail. You take that time away. So, that's that struggle. But I had a great experience today that I wanted to share. So being that I just relocated, they don't know that I've done this permanently. They just think that I pulled up like, as a welfare check or just a scheduled visitation. And things hadn't gone the way I planned it over this last 10 days. So I think it was expected that I would pull up with a particular type of energy, and it was a total opposite. You know, I came with a a sneak attack. My energy was totally neutral. It was like water. And so, with that being said, I diffused the entire situation and I achieved my outcome. So, in fact, I diffused her hostility by, in achieving that outcome. And everybody received it. My son felt it, whereas normally he would feel attention because of me and his mom's. So, with me trying to eliminate that third element and just deal with him and me, I feel I can best do that by being neutral, by being calm and not having him feel that tension, like you said, Sherma, putting him at ease because he's going to be naturally protective of his moms, regardless of what he sees. His father is big, not having any feelings, strong, tough. He could take whatever, you know, but he sees his mom as delicate, gentle, vulnerable, and naturally he's going to be protective of her and of that, of her feelings. So just had to remain neutral. And we had a really, really, really good session. It was quick, brief, 30 minutes, but it was just what the doctor ordered.
That is fantastic. And I will say also, you know, if you go back and there's some discomfort, suspicion, because you're showing something different. So if that becomes what is he up to and some suspicion there, or if at any point it doesn't go well, stay the course in regards, because sometimes you'll have great interaction and then you may go back and all hell may break loose again and it doesn't go well. But stay the course, because your son will be observant of all of it. And if you remember that your goal is to make sure that you build trust in him so that he feels safe developing that relationship with you, and he feels that you are, a safety net for him and someone that he can turn to, he will. So I commend you for doing that today. And we lost.
Wait, Marcus, come back to
Where'd Marcus go? I don't know.
out. It was just about to segue into. I think he'll probably be joining us again. I think it was just about to segue.
I'm not sure if he had to get off. He may have gotten a phone call or something.
Okay. Well, what
any comments on? But you know what I mean, because we have a win. When you have a win, and even in family therapy, sometimes people are coming in and I'm like, oh my God, they're doing fantastic. And then they come the next week and they're fighting, so
Right.
There's an ebb and flow.
Yep.
So you stay the course. You stay the course, because ultimately your goal, you have to remove whatever is going on with her and focus on building that relationship with your son. He's back.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we introduce Marcus Clark, the husband of Miss Shirma P. Clark. Marcus, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and feel free to chime in.
You're muted.
Go ahead.
No sound.
I heard. Speak. Mm-mm. We're not hearing you. Hold on one second. Let me.
And he sounds like he has things to say. He's gonna go out and come back in.
He's gonna go out and come back in.
I have to say that I have to do my disclaimer that I'm not here to do therapy. I'm here to just give my perspective on things, some professional, some personal. How did you feel about the interaction today?
Bystander.
I felt that so one of my one of my byproducts of my abandonment issues is me being dismissive, my dismissiveness. So I feel that by me, my energy wasn't dismissive. It wasn't combative. It wasn't dismissive. It was confrontational, but it wasn't combative and it wasn't dismissive. And so I actually gave her a hug, and that was an acknowledgement. It seems like it's something that she needed for. It seems like there's something that she needed for a long time, whereas that's something that I refuse to give. Like, we haven't had any physical contact or even any polite conversation in so long, because whenever I come around, I'm always tense or angry because of what I'm enduring and what I'm being subjected to. So you know what? Today I was like, you know what? Just let it go, dog. Just let it go. And I went. I gave her a hug and I thanked her. I said thank you, and I gave her a hug. And then I spoke with my son for a minute. Light, all light. Just, yo, I'm here to check on you. How you doing? How'd you make out during the storm? I told you I'd come. You know, even if things didn't go as planned, I'm still here. If you want to get with me tomorrow, after you hang out with your homeboys, you know where I am. You have my number. Call me. It was simple. Dignity of simplicity. Go Mobulous Production.
And bystanders, she can be your greatest ally. I'm hoping, my hope for you guys is that things settle down enough that you and her can have an adult conversation and you can find out what her issues are.
I
And
like to
you
get
all,
her in therapy. I like for us to get there aside from Diallo, not with Diallo. Just
yeah.
first, just us. And then with my son. His name is Diallo, by the way. Disclaimer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
And I
I
think
would
that's a
say,
great idea because you all will have a neutral party who can look at both sides and give even feedback. Um, so I hope that you guys get to that point. But I think that the safer you allow her to feel, that she doesn't feel that she's going to get, you know, tension from you or confrontation or any, any negative energy, she may be willing, hopefully, or feel safe enough to go in and do it. Because at the same time, you all have a common goal, and that is making sure that your son's well-being, that he it's his overall well-being.
Right.
So Marcus is back. Can do you have yeah, there you go. I hear a voice now.
I'm on my iPad, so I had to switch it up. So I missed. I might have missed part of it, but the part that I heard, the part that I responded to, was, and it may not be particularly to his situation, but I was thinking if you have two parents, and one of them was abused in any sort of way, and now you're having a custody issue to where now you have to drop your child off to the same person that abused you. Like, how do you get over that part of it when you're still protecting? You want to protect your child from the same type of pain that you went through. Um, because if they're still showing the same signs that they had before, whether they're physically abusive, mentally abusive, verbally abusive, and they're still showing those signs, you're telling that parent, I still have to drop my child off, whom I'm very protective of. I still have to drop my child off to that same person who's exhibiting those same behaviors that I've seen in the past. How does a parent get, from the looking at it from the other end, how does a parent feel comfortable doing that um, when those signs are still present?
Is
And I
that
was
for
listening,
me?
listening to, and I was also listening to the bystander, and what he said was he changed his approach to going to when he went to visit. Right, no matter what it seemed like, well, no matter what the the animosity that came towards him, he found a way to change the way he responded to that. So it's in that situation, it would say that he may have responded differently, obviously differently before, and that caused a lot of tension. And this, obviously his son saw that and sort of internalized that as well. And I'm maybe speaking out, I don't know, but he internalized that as well, and that and as I heard Sherman say when I got back on, like he's going to have to be cognizant of being consistent with that moving forward, so that everyone has a comfort level of the interaction between him and the child, um, by showing that through his interaction with the mother. It's almost like somebody has to be the big person and sort of step in and say, I'm not going to engage in that. We have a real uh, um, a goal here of me with him, not necessarily me with you. So
Being the
Right.
biggest person is overrated.
Ha 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 ha.
being a big
I
overrated.
agree with you though, but I agree
But
with
if
you.
it
I,
gets
I,
you to
I
your
agree
end
with you.
result,
I
if it
agree with you.
gets
If
what
it
I say, if it
needs
gets you
to
what
an
you
end,
want, though, you may have to
yes,
be. But to
yes,
Marcus's
ma'am.
point, that's why I said if it's a safe situation for the child.
Yes, it
If
is.
the person is exhibiting the same types of behaviors, I can't necessarily say if it would be a safe situation
Right.
for the child. Bystander, forgive me, but I have to be me, and sometimes I can't get out of my therapist's brain. So I'm going to say this, and I'm not accusing you of anything. So just let's make that clear. I'm not saying that you've ever abused anybody or anything like that. But if you were sitting in my office, and again, I'm not doing therapy right now, I'm just giving my perspective. If you were sitting in my office and I had both of you in there and you made a comment like, normally I come in with tension and um I just chose not to do it this time. My brain immediately goes to, well, what was her experience with him
Right.
in the relationship? And how does that experience now filter or spill over to her feeling possibly that she may need to protect her kid or have a level of discomfort with him being with that child? Even to piggyback on what Marcus is saying, my mind would go there, because then my mind would say, well, does she have a concern that he's going to be hostile toward my kid or to the child?
And wait,
Those kinds of
Shirma?
things. So I immediately go there.
Right. And I immediately go to when you said my child. It's not your child. And that's the problem,
It's our
because
child.
it's our child.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll take the my out of that,
Right.
but I still have
And
to say,
so,
So
when I
but
said
the
my
reason why,
child, I'm saying as far as her. But as a
right, but the
therapist,
reason why,
I am going to wonder,
yeah,
hey,
and I would
he
answer.
mentioned hostility. I wonder if that spills over to the interaction with the child, if that person is frustrated
I
with the child.
agree. I
and
agree. But my
I
point
would
is,
answer.
go ahead.
I would answer. Um, that probably was taken out of text because context, because I'm referring to, we've got such extensive history. I mean, my son's 15. This has been going on for like 12 years. So when I say come with tension this time, initially, there was no tension. It was just, hey, how you doing? Let's do this. Let's co-parent. Let's, you know, it's us against the world. We can't show any division. It's me and you, and even though we're not together, it's still me and you, and we're for the betterment of our son. Over the course of 12 years, that attitude has been eroded. It's been eroded, constantly deteriorating because of, when someone takes your liberty, it's kind of hard for you to be subjective. I mean, kind of hard for you to be objective, right? But someone is constantly taking your liberty. So after a while, you become conditioned, you become tense. It's like an analogy, I was talking with a friend today regarding our environment, and you're a product of your environment. If your relationship environment is tense, that's how you're going to come across initially, like especially if you go through something en route to picking up your child, or that, I'm going to get there, and God, I got to go through this just to, it's like you're preparing. It's like you know it's trauma. You're traumatized pretty much. So you being traumatized going into a situation, you exude trauma. So you know it's it's a bad cycle. It's cyclical, and it's a bad cycle. It's a terrible thing. And like your husband was saying, someone has to be the bigger person to break that cycle.
And the reason why I said what I was saying, Shirma, is because what he just said is often overlooked. The trauma that is given to the other parent that is a victim, he's the parent trying to see the child. And he's a victim of all of his efforts. When he gets there, they sometimes manipulate it to where he doesn't get the amount of time that he was supposed to be allotted. Even if it's hours less, if you only get, for example, 72 hours in a month or every 2 weeks, those 72 hours, when limited to 70, becomes offensive. And when that offense is overlooked because of privilege that the system designs, as a father, that system is usually designed against us. And so when a person say, and that's why I was sensitive to the word my child, because that's not, I know you took it out of context, but it is actually done. This is my child. And it is used against us when we're sitting there fighting for the child that is ours. But the world looks at it as it's hers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing from the bystander is it creates a sense of helplessness
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
don't have authority or power to change it. You have to just go along with whatever you're being given.
Yeah.
So I can see why. So I understand what you're saying now. The frustration, it sounds like you're saying the frustration and hostility came as the result of having the resistance
Right.
from your ex in forming the bond and relationship with
Time
your
and time
son.
again. Yeah. Time and
Got
time
it.
again. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see where it could make someone feel very helpless,
So
and it's frustrating.
so in this situation, I went in knowing that it could happen this time, but if it's not going to be the first, and it definitely won't be the last. So just go in like water and be fluid. And if it doesn't go the way that you want it to go, just don't go within the expectation, you know. And someone said that to me, and that's what I did. I went with no expectation. So
Expectation leads to disappointment, one, and as well, um, let me go biblical and say, if you're asked, if you're asked to be forgiven 7 times in a day, you are to forgive 7 times in that day. And what you approached it with was the forgiveness of your hurt heart and your pain. And the problem and the reason why I want to have the discussion is because our pain as men is often overlooked. And this is part of why we are so passionate and why we react sometimes the way that we do. And when we react to the pain, the same pain that a woman reacts to and gets sympathy for, we get villainized for. And it becomes a downward spiral of nothing gets accomplished other than the abandonment that plagues our family structures.
Well, Sean, that's because it looks different from you. When I say you, men, and I'm not saying it's right for you all to be villainized for that, but it's because it looks different, and so society views it different because it's displayed differently.
Again, that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother day, because you're right, and
I,
that's
I
what's
can
wrong.
I guess I can write another letter dealing with that that vilification because I 20 grand and counting, right?
Wow. I have
20
some
grand and
questions over
counting.
here that I'm going to address. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, Lee.
I'm good.
Standard. But what one of the questions or comments over here was when you come in, it was from your earlier statement, bystander. When you come in a peaceful state, she was able to receive it without being triggered. And that's absolutely correct. And I understand that. But the problem that I'm having with the blatant triggers that are allowed for our feminine women counterparts. You're allowed to get triggered. And the example that I use is the slap, the infamous Will Smith and Jada Pinkett slap. Reason why I say it is because they both were triggered. Hers was looked at with her rolling in her eyes like, oh, she should have the right to do that. No, you were triggered and you didn't handle it well. The same way he was triggered and he didn't handle it well. His action of handling it was going up and being physical, which a lot of men sometimes know no better than what to do. Whereas her rolling of her eyes was her reacting to being triggered, and not saying one is worse than the other. Not going to argue that point. The point that I'm arguing is that she gets passed for being triggered when he does not.
Well, I would argue that point, but that's a whole other show. That's a whole other show. But I get your point, Sean, in regards to it being unequal as far as, you know, men's emotions being disregarded. So I get what you're, you know, I get what you're trying to say. And again, I think it's going to be important because, as I told you before, when I am doing family therapy, I get both sides and I see both sides, and I'm sure there is another side. And so I think it's going to, you know, I'm hoping that they both get to a point where they could sit down and the bystander can hear the mom's perspective as to, you know, what the issues may have be, so they can resolve those for the child, because obviously she's holding on and harboring something that's creating,
Agreed.
you know, this
Agreed.
resistance.
Agreed. And we won't go on because we almost 2 hours in. But Marcus,
We
I
always
see you.
get to almost 2 hours in.
I see you was going to say something, so I want you to go ahead. You got to unmute. You got to unmute.
No, I'm gonna save mine for the next show for that one.
Listen, we have some passionate debates in this house about that very topic that you guys just brought up.
Yeah, it's definitely
That's another show.
Definitely discuss because I do have my opinions on it. But I think that we'll leave that for later. We'll leave that for later.
Absolutely, and I agree because you know, and it is a passionate because that becomes almost like a gender discrepancy, but it's a necessary conversation because I say to that point that I was making, you know, women, Black women especially, if you rolled your eyes at your mother, what the results will be. So acting like rolling your eyes is not something disrespectful and not something that needs to be addressed. You know better. Stop acting like you don't is what I challenge all of you to do. Because you know that's not appropriate. If your child rolled their eyes at you, you know how you would react. So stop acting like you don't know what we're talking about. You
But
speak Marshall.
Sean, understand that some of this is cultural.
It doesn't matter. I understand that. It doesn't negate the fact that you know what I'm talking about. We speak Martian, y'all speak Venus. Difference is when we're speaking Martian, you want to act like you don't understand. And you do. So that's just we'll save it for another day because that becomes a gender conversation.
Because I see him down there smirking and my blood pressure is going up to here.
I'm sure. And
but because this has been a passionate debate that I've had, but we'll be on here for another hour if we start getting into that.
Mars and Venus type of dialogue with one another. And how we respond to things, you know, how her passion may be different than my passion, and it may, but still it looks differently. It may be the same, but it looks differently coming from each other. But it is what it is. Like I said, I won't go off into that right now, but it is, you know, her with the rolling her eyes and me ready to go up there and smack the dude, you know, one of us can get arrested for that. the other one can't. So there are differences that are real that we have to take into account. Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. And I can't even
Through society, right? Through societal, right?
through society.
If it was
But
all, if it was
again,
all men, if it was all men, and that's the way that we all, handle our differences, and it's normalized, that's one thing. But it's the way the society is set up right now. There are differences, and we have to, in the bystander's case, his partner has, certain levels of the way that she feels like she needs to protect her child, and he diffused it this time, and next time you'll have to do the same thing, just because of the way that she feels, because she's in control of it in a sense. So,
and it may not even be her child; it just may be how she
Person
receives things,
suffer.
and it spills over to
well, the
the
point
child. But
is,
again,
the point
I don't know.
is, you're right. But the point is, when you feel threatened, you can act that way. But when you're threatening us, we cannot.
yeah, you're right.
And that's what I try to get to the root of it. Because once again, you're right. The consequences are different with rolling your eyes versus physical. But the reaction, if you really boil it down, it is just they are reacting to something that triggered them.
Mhm.
Both are reacting. And it's unfortunate that the consequences are different because let's say this verbal, you could say what you want, is what somebody told me. Oh, I can say what I want as long as I don't get physical. I'm like, yo, go ahead, go through security at the airport and say, I have a bomb because you want to. And see how much that stands up to you can say what you want. We're in a free country and there's no consequence to it. So I say that to say there are consequences that we take for granted. The lady who got arrested in Atlanta, for example, with the cop who was trying to arrest her. And she was like, why do I need to this? And it's like, yeah, you could say now he's displaying the authority that he has because you said what you wanted. And now oh, wait, no, don't, you're hurting me. And we have another topic of discussion. But with all that said, I'm not going to go there.
This is a different topic. But I would say what I always say though, it's unequal energy. It's unequal. But then we can get into that later. It's unequal.
Okay. It can have unequal results too, the same energy. And so why you want to say we are unequal when it comes to energy, we are unequal when it comes to physical ability, but you don't want to express and embrace that conveniently at times. Not you specifically, but women don't want to embrace and when it's convenient. We are equal. Okay, wait. So now we're going to talk about unequal energies. We can go into that all day long.
So Sean,
yes,
we'll be on for another hour.
Woo, ladies and gentlemen, you're right.
So this is what I will say in regards to bystander. It is up to each of us to manage ourselves. And if you are trying to accomplish something and the end result is to have the win, then you have to manage yourself. If you want the end result. And so, that's kind of what it is at the end of the day. And we can get into that whole other topic with this.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Either you want the result or you want to be right. One of the two, right?
That one, that's one. You're right. You're right. And the other thing is, how many times do we have to go ahead and fight for end result simply because of how someone feels? And I'm not talking gender here. For example, somebody steps on my on my toe when I was younger. Why do you step on my toe? I'm trying to. My end result is getting respect. What's the point though? I can't see myself being in jail for an amount of years because a person after in hindsight, because a person stepped on my shoe and I couldn't get over it. So it doesn't just apply for genders. We all are emotional beings, is the thing that I'm stating. Yet one of us gets villainized for their emotions and the other one does not. That's my point. So the emotion, I'm not displaying which emotion is better, more. You can have the ability to roll your eyes and nothing happens. We can, and that's you expressing yourself, but we can't express ourselves how we want to and not have any consequences because, well, your expression is physical. All right, well, that's how we were raised. Just like your expressions are rolling your eyes and mouthy. That's how you were raised. But nonetheless, it's an expression of your emotion that is being, like you said, under control. And we need to learn how to control our emotions better, to your point.
And so
Well,
that's what that is what that is what I do family therapy for. So that all of it is pointed out.
absolutely. Absolutely. So with that
All
being
of
said,
it
I
is
thank
pointed out.
you. And you're absolutely right. And that's why we love these conversations. So I just want to say, bystander, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story and allowing us to speak on it. Mark, it's a pleasure to finally get you up here. And I can't wait for you to join us again. And we can have some of these conversations. Shirma, of course, the lovely Shirma P. Clark, licensed therapist, all of those initials that you see are her licenses. Can you explain? Can you just quickly share what those letters mean?
Yes. So MS, of course, is Masters of Science. LPC is Licensed Professional Counselor, which is my license to practice therapy in the state of Georgia. And NCC is I am a National Certified Counselor.
See, thank you, because they were A, B, C, D, E, F to me.
I was
So what
literally
this means basically is, I'm not practicing without a license. I actually have a license to do this. And I always write, some of it is my perspective. If you ask my husband, he doesn't care what initials are behind my name, but yeah, that's what it means.
And Marcus, you were saying something?
No, I was going to put when I was putting my name in, and I came on and saw hers. I was going to put no letters, no letters at all.
And the funny thing is, the most important letter to me is the PC. More importantly, the C. So remember that, ladies and gentlemen, that those are the important letters to us men. That clock that he put on the end of your name, that C that stands for that clock, is valuable, but that's a whole nother session as well. But I just want to say thank you, Shirma PC, or Prescott Clark, for joining us, and with all of your other initiatives and achievements and accolades, and your viewpoint really displays it. I thank you, because I'm an emotional person and I don't always know how to contain it. That's why I'm passionate about when somebody makes the mistake of doing something that was emotionally driven. I don't want them to be put up under the jail unfairly. And we often get put up under the jail unfairly, and we can never dig ourselves out.
And Sean B, like this is a whole other topic. But you also have to understand that in the United States, Black men are looked at a certain way, but please don't think that Black women don't get titles too, because that's another topic in regards to the microaggression.
You're opening up the rabbit hole, but you're right. But our job,
but when we're called aggressive, especially by other cultures, that is a microaggression as well. And Black women tend to be labeled as aggressive when we are strong and opinionated. So different day, different topic. But I'm just saying all that to say that it's not just Black men that can be, sometimes.
Well, the whole thing is, you're right, but us Black men are here to protect y'all, and y'all don't always get and understand that. And that's where we have our issue. Is because we want you to be able to have that voice, but unfortunately, you like putting that voice and aiming it. It's like you giving you a gun, and instead of shooting the enemy, you're shooting us and the enemy, and that's why we have an issue with that voice or that gun that you have, and we have actually fought to give it to you.
So,
we wanted you to have that voice. Now that you have the voice, kapow, 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 kapow. I'm just
okay. So as I said, we'll be on here for 2 more hours. So I'm going to save.
all right.
I was like, I want to hear this from Shirma.
No, because this is a whole other topic.
On this one.
I don't know if we'll talk about it next week or not, but I will save my responses.
I need to get some popcorn. Hold on, let me get my chessman ready here.
All right, but we're gonna discuss that, and maybe next week we'll be able to do it. Yeah, we'll be able to do it next week. We'll kind of figure out a topic that we could discuss: the Black men and Black women relationships, and or the lack of the relationship that we need, or the relationship we need to develop better, because I think it's not arguable that we are challenged with that, especially in this day and age at this moment. So we'll definitely have that. I do have a lot of opinions on that, and as I could see you do as well. And Marcus, please join us. A bystander, if you want to join us, and anyone else, if you want to join us. I've been a little back on trying to get the topics out early on because of my personal circumstances, but I will get better at that so I can extend this subject that we'll be speaking about. So if you do want to join us, we can extend that invite for you to join us. All right. So with that being said, this is Shirma P. Clark, Sean Bouldin, with our guest Marcus Clark, and our bystander with Straight Wellness. Thank you for joining us on a Friday night. We are here every Friday night, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern. And we usually go for an hour, but as you can see, we're going to the 2-hour mark. And we just thank you for staying with us as long as you did. Jay, Chris, Moms, Milk, Carla. I can't name everybody who joined us, but I want to say thank you in advance.
Wait, John,
those who listen.
Is that Milk?
Yep, that is Milk. Josiah Milk Styles, yes.
What's up, Milk? I know.
What's up, Milk? Sherma P is saying what's up. She's on YouTube, Milk, and he just joined us. We was talking about Black man versus the Black mama, baby mama, to be part of his son's life. And it was a great discussion. And we were supposed to be on for an hour. We do this Straight Wellness every week on Fridays. And we are now 2 hours into it. So we're about to get off. But thank you for joining us. And Marcus, thank you for joining us.
I'll let you know if I can't make it next week, because it might be, I think next week is my daughter's school's homecoming game. So I'll let you know if we need to do it.
Okay, and so, yeah, and we'll do that. We'll keep y'all posted. Thank you for joining us. Again, thank you for sharing.
All right.
Yes, thank you for sharing. It was a great topic, and good blessings, continued blessings with your newfound momentum that you're gaining regarding you in the relationship between your son as well as his mom.
Yes,
and
Lord.
Yeah, and you guys definitely continue to grow on that. So with that being said, Heavenly Father, we come to you today to give you the praise and honor that you so rightfully deserve. We thank you for your presence in our lives, and we thank you for the guidance that you provide us. We ask that you continue to guide us and give us the words to say, the things to do, in order to relay and share your perspective in life, in order to receive your perspective from others, and in order for us to be forgiven for whatever we do that is against your perspective. We're saying this for all those who we know and love, and all those who know and love us, as well as those who don't. We just ask that you allow your presence, which I identify as love. You allow love to be in all of us, and you allow love to be extended through us and to us. We thank you for this in advance. We say these things humbly in your Son, Jesus Christ's blessed name, or however those who I'm praying for may know or acknowledge you. Amen. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Shirma P, thank you. Bystander, thank you. Marcus, thank you. Ma, thank you. And we're out.
Bye, Ma.